then just additionally, before you start, if you go to talk, please make sure you hit the push button because that's a license.
Do you want them on the whole time, or do you want them?
Yeah.
When you talk is fine.
Okay.
Or you can have them on a moment, whichever you prefer.
We'll wait for you to get up.
I forget.
You can go.
You can sit over there if you want.
I didn't know what was going on with the.
Thank you.
We're about to start the meeting.
No. All right. Call to order the Town of St. John Contractor Board meeting for February 5th, 2025. Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Dave Brunius,
Here.
Frank Ledenbarker,
Here.
Chris O'Hara,
Here.
Jason Vlasic,
Here.
John Gill.
Here.
All right, item 4 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from January 6, 2025, Contractor Board meeting. Do I get a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 6, 2025 Contractors Board meeting minutes as posted.
Can I get a second? Second?
Second.
All right, we got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved minutes. All right, new business. Item A, would you like to go over some of that?
Yes. So I talked to John after you guys' last meeting on January 6th, and I looked at our current regulations for contractors registration and pulled the portions that what we're needing to be updated. So when you're looking at this and reading this, it's not the whole ordinance that's being updated, it's just those particular sections. So the first one is the registration before we can provide it. I split it out into 3 different portions and added a new section. So most of this language is from the existing ordinance, just changed and altered to then allow what was talked about by the board. So it's still requiring the $5,000 bond recorded at county with the recorder stamp appearing on the copy of coming to us, a copy of the certificate of insurance with the town being listed as the additional insured. We are now going to start requiring that workman compensation insurance be provided as required by Indiana state statute for all employees. So essentially what that means is anybody who turns in their registration has to give us a copy of the workman's comp. If they don't have workman's comp, they have to provide us the appropriate waiver. What that tells us then is that they're claiming that they have no employees. So when, for example, code enforcement is out in the field, we've provided a list of everybody who's provided us that list of waiver, and he says, say, Joe's Paving, for an example, and I don't know if that's a contractor's company or not. I'm just picking a name. And they say that they're a one-man show, they don't have anybody else, but he's out there and he sees they have 3 people. He can go, hey, wait a minute, according to your registration, you're a one-man show, and he can then stop them, and according to that way. The board wanted anybody who registers for the town to present a copy of their Lake County license. I did that for everybody with the exception of electrical because we do our own electrical testing in-house. So what this is that when they register for whatever they're registering as general, they have to provide their general. Carpentry, they have to provide their carpentry. It's whatever they're registering as is what we're going to require their copy of their Lake County license for. The other exception is plumbers, which we require the state plumbing license. And then as discussed with the board, which you agreed to me adding in, is requiring all general contractors to watch Module 3, Part 3, and Module 4 from the EPA regarding stormwater erosion, sediment controls, and prevention of construction site pollutants. This kind of helps with our NDPS permit that the town has for our MS4 requirements so that we can also report to IDEM that on top of us doing all of our stuff, we are now requiring everybody who's a general who works under the town's NDPS permit to watch this stuff, to do training, and they have to turn it in as part of their registration. I did put in there that we are then going to require that all contractors have vehicles and equipment. And when I'm referring to equipment, I'm referring to large equipment. Trucks, trailers, if they have large equipment, that way if they're just dropping off equipment and leaving it there, we have an idea of who is there, what equipment's there. It's not Tim's looking around and he's not seeing who's on there. We're not looking for like the small equipment. We're not looking for hard hat, laptops, anything like that. We're looking for the large equipment items, something that they can easily put an item on, identifying that it's theirs. With the exception of D4, which is that requirement for generals to watch the stormwater modules. Everybody who's currently registered is exempt unless they let their license expire, which is at the end of the year, and they go to renew in January. Then they have to follow all regulations that are being discussed tonight if a favorable recommendation is made and then adopted by town council. Otherwise, just as people come in and register throughout the rest of the year, obviously their license from last year is expired, but anybody who's registered this year, provided that they get their registration in before it expires, they'll be exempt from all these requirements. But if they let it expire starting January 1 of next year, we would then enforce all these regulations that are being discussed tonight. And then this is the example of what the general contractors will have to turn in with part of their packet. And I got this because I actually went through and did the stormwater modules myself.
Okay.
So I kind of have a dumb question on the stormwater modules. We're just wanting them to watch the video. We're not putting any language in here that they have to adhere to any of the information in the video.
That's all covered with their stormwater permit and stormwater requirements,
Okay.
and covered with stormwater enforcement. So that one is all taken care of as a different section of ordinance.
Okay.
This is just for a training module, training regulation that IDEM likes for us to do with contractors.
Then-
Obviously, we don't have the manpower to hold that training ourselves annually. So while EPA has this module available for free on their website, it makes it easier to just say, please go and watch these. These are what we expect you to follow. And then, and John can talk to this one too, with all new home permits, we do have erosion control standards that they sign that they agree to follow for all new construction projects.
I just didn't see any binding verbiage in with this that made sense to.
Yeah, I think the
That's what I'm
module,
saying.
the point of the module is that way they can't claim they didn't know, because if you watch that, then you would know that you're not supposed to hose the mud down the storm drain or, scrape your boots on top of the storm lid, so.
Right, but I didn't read anything that was forcing them to adhere to any of this stuff. That's the part that I saw
Right.
was,
Yeah, we're covering that with a separate section of ordinance in
I
a
just want to
separate
make sure.
area.
I get it, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they're,
Yep.
otherwise what's the point of watching the video?
Yes.
Right.
If there's no
So other towns,
consequence.
they have people, and maybe St. John's not big enough for it, but they literally have guys who literally go around. I know Portage has it. Crown
Yeah,
Point has it. Like guys who literally go around.
just the MS4.
Yeah, MS4 stuff.
Yeah.
Does this town have
So
that or
we've
no?
never really had, since none of the previous councils or anybody ever enacted like a storm fee, there was never really funding, so it always just fell on like public works or code enforcement, which we've had part-time code enforcement up until this year. And now that we have a full-time code enforcement / stormwater person, I think we could have a better handle on, monitoring that and being more proactive with.
Because I thought that the state, because I've had to take some of the classes, like in other towns, like down farther south, and they told me, or Crown Point was actually the guy, I forget the guy's name. He told me, he goes, no, we get audited by the state to make sure that we're doing that. That's why I guess I'm wondering, it might not even fall underneath our.
Yeah, we do have, like, the public improvements inspector goes out and does, like, site inspections, saying,
Okay.
okay, yeah, they got, Astoria has their silt fence up. It'll send them correction notices, but then the code enforcement officer, too, if he sees a trail of mud, he'll track down, the concrete guys that it was their truck that ran out after it poured a basement and get them to clean it up.
Okay.
and stuff like that. So that's where I think this year will be the most proactive we've been.
Okay, so that's
In a
like
long
this
time.
because you have the manpower to do it. now.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. So I guess that's what you're kind of asking is, how do you enforce it? Well, before they didn't even have a guy to enforce it, if there was.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we could enforce
Right.
it.
Well, we have a
Otherwise,
separate
like I said, otherwise
stormwater
what's the point of
ordinance.
watching the video.
No.
You might as well show them cartoons, so.
Yeah, we have a separate stormwater ordinance that polices that, and then they do, and you know about it, that erosion control
Yeah.
agreement that you sign saying, I'm gonna protect all inlets, that was kind of another way to say, I know what I'm doing by signing that, that way you can't say, well, I didn't know about siltworm or whatever.
About it.
So, yeah, this is just another, but that, if they did have to get ticketed or fined or cited for anything, it would go through the stormwater ordinance, not the contractor registration
I got
ordinance.
you, okay.
And then, just because it is being something talked about right now, let me find it here real quick. We did change that erosion control slightly to also have this in here that covers what the typical lot erosion control looks like, and also then has to be signed and included with the permit application. So this is something that we are now including with those new permits. So we have that erosion control letter, we now have this, we're gonna require that, so it's not like they can't claim that they did not know. So when either code enforcement, who is now also a certified stormwater inspector, or our public improvement inspector, who is also stormwater inspector certified, goes out and tells them that, hey, you're in violation, we can then get them with that stormwater ordinance regulation.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
So I had a question about can you scroll down to the equipment
Yes.
part where you say equipment? Can we amend that to say large equipment if that's what we mean? Because, and the other thing is, if this only applies to people that are new contractors, is that how I'm reading it? That this requirement to have vehicles and equipment visually marked only applies to new contractors, and it doesn't apply to everyone? Because if it doesn't apply to everyone, then we may have a mix of like people that are marked, that aren't marked. Does that make sense?
Nope,
Okay.
I can amend section 3 to also include section 9B, because 9A is already in there.
9B, yeah, correct.
So I can also include that to start, I can amend that section to include section 9A, that way any and all are required to
Any
do
and all,
that.
yeah, that's what I was thinking, that, so that we, so it's covered for everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the language was clear so that it wasn't, if someone read that, they wouldn't say, oh, all equipment, what does that mean, right?
And then if
So-
it is the pleasure of the board, I can amend section 9B to read as all vehicles and large equipment.
We want, yeah. I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to,
Yes.
so that,
So you can identify who's
Yeah.
on site is really what, that's the whole
yeah, the goal,
yes,
but
the goal.
yeah,
So
if
you
you-
drive past, such and such plumbing guy, that's him. The excavator's this guy, the carpenter's this guy, the electrician's this guy.
Correct.
So you
Okay.
know exactly who it is. So you can also enforce the whole workman's comp thing.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So, that people are playing by the rules correctly that everybody else has to play by.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, that's all I had for that particular issue.
That's easy enough. I can make those amendments easy.
Perfect. Did we want to consider now I know if you have been a contractor beforehand that these rules don't apply. Exempt for 7.4. Okay.
No, you still have to, you just don't have to take the test.
Okay.
That's what they're saying. If, for a new person who's gonna register in the town,
Yeah.
you have to show proof that you passed the Lake County test, which gives you the license for Lake County.
Okay.
For the specific trade that you're going to be doing. So if you're
Okay.
gonna be a carpenter, you have to show proof that you passed.
So that's the
that.
only real change. Okay,
That's-
I got it.
As for
Got it.
licensing, yes.
For licensing, okay,
But
that
if
makes
you've
sense.
already been, if you're
Yeah.
already registered, you're grandfathered in.
Okay,
As long as you don't let your license expire. If it expires, then you gotta go back. to
Okay.
the-
That way,
Yeah.
we're not testing the 1,000 people that have been registered for multiple years. The
Yeah.
30 or so new people that come a year. That's who gets the test.
yeah, that would be a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So, is there any consequence to not having your equipment labeled, like the large equipment? Is there any consequence to that?
They
Or
would
just-
get penalized in accordance with what is already in the contractor's regulation. And
Okay, so there's already something there. Yeah,
Yes.
because when I saw this, I thought it was the whole thing, and
no, we're just amending
it's
sections.
small section. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the ordinance number 962, which is what we're amending,
Mm-hmm.
already has those regulations built in
Okay.
because
perfect.
they're already in there. We're just
amending certain portions.
Yep,
Yeah,
which
that makes
allows
sense.
then Tim or John or any other building inspector who's out there, if they see something in violation of this, they can provide that to them, or they could send Tim out there. And Tim is more or less out there 7.5 hours every day.
Okay.
Driving around making sure everybody's in compliance with all ordinances and regulations of the town.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
I don't know.
No? All right, anybody want to propose a motion on this ordinance with the the amendment on the?
Yes. So any motion would be a favorable recommendation to the town council, contingent upon the inclusion of 9A having all vehicles and large equipment visually marked, and then for section 3 to also include section 9, or not 9A, 9B, 9B to also be in section 3 for requiring all contractors to follow the marking of the vehicles
Wonderful.
and equipment.
Great.
Motion?
I'll make a motion.
You gonna read all that? No. No.
I can't.
All
I
right, we got a
can't
motion
read
for
all
what
that.
she said.
What she said. Yes, exactly for what she said. Thank you.
You get a second? You'll second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Nays? Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 0. So, approved.
All right, I will get those changes done, and this will probably be on the council's February 26th agenda.
Wasn't there something else too that you said you were working on too? Something else?
So-
What was that?
So I was doing research into the 1099s as
Okay.
requested. What I have found across most municipalities at this point in time is that there's a responsible bidder ordinance, but that only adheres to regulations for the town when they're putting projects out to bid. The only other municipality who's got something different that I found at this time in time was Valpo, but their regulations only apply to commercial buildings and multifamily structures, 5 units and greater. So I don't see anybody right now who's got anything for single-family detached, single-family attached housing that has that requirement. And without conferring with our legal representation, I would not be comfortable making us be the first one to implement that across the board. I would want their legal opinion before drafting something of that nature.
So if we were to like look into that more, because I mean, that's a problem if you have people who are hiring people as a 1099 contractor underneath their wing, they should also be carrying the insurance and all that stuff that
Right.
the
Well,
town requires. If that's not happening, how do you enforce that? And that, what I'm basically trying to say is, you're making it really unfair to everyone else who's working out there.
That's part of what the workman's comp insurance requirement is going to also help kind of regulate, is because what I will have my office staff do as these come in, the ones that come in with workman's comp, because having worked in a previous municipality that had workman's comp regulations requirements, the people who had workman's comp exemption were people who worked by themselves. They had no employees. They had nobody that they were subletting to or anything like that. And there were never that many of them. It would be easy enough that as they come in, as they register, to have them create a spreadsheet or a list of all those contractors, provide a copy of that list to code enforcement so that as he's out and about, that's why I used the example of Joe's Paving earlier. If Joe's Paving comes in with his workman's comp saying it's just him, and code enforcement sees him with 3-4 people helping him do a patio project, he can go, hey, wait a minute, you're on my list of having a workman's comp exemption. You're not following what your license says.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, makes sense. Everyone else agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Anybody? No? You got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second? All in favor, say aye.